We're back to having our special appointments in an undisclosed secret location. I'm Dr. Jordan Breeding, but if anybody official asks, let's say Joe Dan Breading. Anyway, you're watching another episode of Your Brain on Crack, where again, if anybody asks, tell them it's called something like Your Dome on Cocaine, and it's the only show on cocaine where I'm dramatically altering my appearance week to week. Here's what I got. Middle-aged man, faux hawk. Good luck identifying me now, pigs!
Not as stupid as sheep, mind you, but pigs are definitely stupid.
Anyway, today I will semi-legally diagnose For most movies, gender swapping the lead characters won't make any real difference. I mean, sure, they steal jewelry in Ocean's 8 instead of something real manly, like crates of 100% beef hot dogs, but fewer wieners isn't why Ocean's 8 is the worst Oceans.
You thought we were just gonna steal one necklace? What do you think we are, a bunch of pussies?
To really examine Hollywood's weird gender standards, let's take a few existing movies and do what I do in the operating room and just make some incisions, move a few organs around, and just kind of, see what happens. Do I really need to go over the plot of Titanic? All right, fine. In short, guy and girl meet on big boat sinks, guy dies, girl lives, and we all end up learning how to play My Heart Will Go On with the recorder in our elementary school music classes. If the genders were reversed in Titanic, right away the power dynamic becomes super weird. You have a spoiled dude from an upper class family picking between a forced marriage to a rich girl and a hot teenage vagrant who impresses him with detailed sketches of penises. Imagine Jack saying, "Draw me like one of your French boys," while he gently dangles the heart of the ocean jewel from his engorged dick. Put that shit in 3D. Tell me that wouldn't be more worth $25 for an IMAX ticket than Avatar 17. This, assuming, of course, theaters ever reopen.
It's been 84 years.
But anyway, the scene really highlighting the uncomfortable underlying dynamic of the couple is when they're on the damn door. Originally, Jack lets Rose have the floating door in the ocean because it's too small for both of them. You know, it's the gentlemanly thing to do. She lives and later gets married and has kids with her unfrozen womb.
You actually think this is you, Nana?
It is me, dear. Wasn't I a dish?
But if you swap them, suddenly we're forced to look at the uncomfortableness of their vastly different financial situations. Now, it's this wealthy man taking over the door to save his life while his homeless mistress slowly freezes to death. Then, once he sees that she's died while he's been chilling on his makeshift paddleboard, she gets slid into the ocean and he's like, "Damn, I quite like that peasant girl."
These are dead, sir.
Come to think of it, everything about the well-off dude even accepting the poor woman's selfless gesture makes him look like a monster. "No, please, Mr. Rich White Man, go! Live your life of adventure, travel and expensive hobbies. I'll gladly sacrifice my poor, worthless, poor person life to make it possible." Man, think of the think pieces.
No.
And now I need to explain the plot of the Spike Lee joint Inside Man. Jesus. Watch a movie every once in a while, huh? Anyway, NYPD Detective Denzel Washington interrogates a bunch of people who were released from a kidnapping at a bank in order to determine which were hostages and which were the actual robbers, because things got kind of confusing for a moment when they all dressed up the same. And since the robbers kept the masks on the whole time, the detectives only have one good lead to identify them. Well, two good leads. Yeah, I'm talking about boobs, kids.
Why do you remember that?
Great tits.
It turns out multiple witnesses confirm one of the perpetrators was a dark-haired, big-busted woman. The detectives quickly determined there are only two people from the bank who match that sensual physical description.
You want to take another picture?
So what does Denzel do? Sexy talk the women into confessing? No. He just lets them go because one of the women got really uncomfortable and offended when the cops mentioned that she has a failing grade cup size, so they just dropped the whole thing. They couldn't possibly imagine being uncouth towards the fair sex, even though this is easily their best lead and their best chance of solving the case.
So,
I violated section 34 double D.
That's weird and absurd in its own right, but now imagine Denzel Washington interrogating a couple of big-dicked perpetrators. In this new scenario, a couple of wandering-eyed hostages notice one of the thieves is either smuggling a pipe bomb or a thick meat tube. And as soon as they're released, they breathlessly describe what they'd seen to the cops. This forces the authorities to thoroughly inspect each suspect's groin. Eventually, they narrow their search down to 2 men with impressive dongers. The funny thing is, the male cops are probably less likely to be embarrassed about getting personal with male suspects because nobody really cares if men's privacy is violated, so they'd probably actually follow through on the lead. Eventually, I'm picturing the case making it to actual court where the defendant's mom testifies that her boy was born with a micro penis, and the prosecution brings out a penis expert to accurately define the characteristics of an above average crotch hog. Are you listening, CSI? It's free money, you can have it.
Step on the paper. Strip.
Just pretend she's an 8-year-old girl.
Similarly, imagine the infamous leg uncrossing scene in Basic Instinct reimagined with the suspect just whipping a snake out mid-interrogation in front of a couple of female detectives like Lyndon B. Johnson giving a press conference. Suddenly the vibe is less sensual misdirection and more sexually harassing power play. The Shape of Water is an Oscar-certified Best Picture story about a mute woman who has an immediate connection with a mysterious fish creature held captive in a secret government science lab. And when the military decides to kill the creature because Michael Shannon can't not be evil, she takes it upon herself to save her species' transcending soulmate and smuggle him out of the lab. Go empathy! And then she takes it home and just f***s it in a bathtub. Go empathy! It's refreshing to see a movie that portrays female sexuality in a non-shameful or judgmental way, but that said, imagine this movie about a lonely male janitor who lives at home by himself and jerks off in the bathtub every morning. He finally sees a sexy lady fish creature in a lab, bonds with it over a mutual appreciation of hard-boiled eggs, and decides to take it home and stick his very human penis in its very scaly wok. Wet-ass cloaca.
Wet-ass cloaca.
Suddenly, this spiritual love connection between human and fishier human becomes the story of a dude who just gets the oddest boner whenever he eats sushi. Also, what would this guy's Octavia Spencer friend think? I highly doubt they'd be like, finally, you found someone who understands you on a level that transcends language. More likely, it'd be, holy shit, did you bang that labfish? What is wrong with you? Also, you might want to have your doctor just seal your dick off because whatever lobster gonorrhea you definitely acquired is gonna get in your brain any second.
You wouldn't understand. Couldn't understand, not if you tried your whole life.
And when you swap the genders, suddenly all sorts of questions about consent bubble up. Can a non-human creature consent to sex? We know it has some intelligence, but what if it's barely smarter than a dog?
Don't play with the kitties. No. Don't play with the kitties.
Suddenly this doesn't scream Best Picture winner as much as it does, the cops will be at your house in 10 minutes to confiscate your aquarium, Guillermo.
I'm not angry.
Have you ever noticed that almost all movie love triangles are between 2 men and 1 woman? There are very few examples of a man choosing between 2 mostly equal women. If a man is choosing, it's between his harpy evil girlfriend who's objectively hot but also like eats live iguanas and stabs children, and the exciting manic pixie dream girl who he's known about for years but never really noticed, you know?
I thought you were Chuck.
It's me.
Yeah.
The thing is, society tells us men are always the pursuers. Even in the scenario with 2 women fighting over 1 dude, the male character still ends up pursuing that manic pixie. In a traditional rom-com, the female lead merely succumbs to the pursuits of one of the 2 men. If we swapped the genders and had 2 women really pursuing a man, it would just feel off-putting and shitty rather than romantic. Consider The Notebook.
It's not gonna be easy. It's gonna be really hard.
Think how much you would hate Rachel McAdams' character, Allie, if she was a man flitting between 2 women. Even though Al becomes engaged to a perfectly fine, maybe even great woman, a different woman has been obsessing over him and builds him an entire freaking house designed to his exact specifications in the hope it'd bring him back to her someday somehow. And that's so exciting to Al, he lies to his fiancée and tricks her into letting him go on a pre-wedding trip to Bone Town with some weird, clingy chick he hasn't seen in several years.
I can't play chopsticks with you doing that.
Even though the man is essentially abandoning his fiancée, I think a large section of society would be more pissed at the female equivalent of Noah for being a homewrecker.
I don't want to have to take advantage of you.
Actually, there may be two issues at play because when female Rachel McAdams abandons her would-be husband, it's high-flying romantic. But if Al did it, it's just gonna be seen as dickhead adultery. Society has created this impossible situation where men are supposed to pursue in a competitive scenario with comparable men, but they're not allowed to succumb to the call of the WAP, the wet op.
Wet ass P-word.
Look, Back to the Future is already a strange enough movie in the way that making out with your mom is strange, but the strangeness really becomes more pronounced if Marty is a girl. And that's without digging into a young woman sneaking out late at night to conduct experiments with an old man in his garage.
I'll stimulate
The cloaca.
The real issue is we're once again in the notebook scenario nobody wants, where two women, female Marty and her eventual mom, are essentially fighting over one man, her dad.
We're back to that.
What's worse, we meet Marty's mom as she sits in a tree with binoculars hoping to spot Marty's dad's dick through a window. And yes, I get that that's problematic no matter the gender, but what are the chances that she's really gonna spot anything worth ogling from that distance anyway? I mean, unobserved Schrodinger dicks are rarely impressive creatures, they tell me.
He's a peeping Tom.
Anyway, Marty gets hit by a car and awakens in her underwear with her young daddy staring lustfully at her. The first thing her dad reveals is that he inspected her underwear very closely to the point he assumes her name must be Victoria's Secret. And also, can he sit inches from her nearly nude body, please, and possibly spend the night with her? The Florence Nightingale effect is no longer kind of sweet, it's kind of rapey. From there, Marty must constantly rebuff her father's incredibly forward advances while attempting to foist him off onto her awkward mom who's just really into sci-fi books. This eventually culminates in a plan whereby Marty agrees to hook up with her dad, but does so in such an aggressive and borderline abusive way that Marty's mom has to drag Marty out of the car and save Marty's dad from this strange, sexually aggressive woman.
Help me.
You know, now that I've said it all out loud, this is kind of a movie I want to see. I mean, it's borderline becoming a coked out Kill Bill-esque sexual power play revenge fantasy. An injured woman who is taken advantage of by a creepy man concocts a plan to use her sexuality to manipulate him and drive him into the arms of a woman who literally stalks men for voyeuristic and maybe murderous pleasure. Well, somebody should call Tarantino. Do you have his number?
Oh, yeah, I'll give it to you.
Fantastic.
Wow. You must be rich.
Hey, look, I'm a girl. I'd recap what we discussed, but I'm pretty sure everybody's Alexas have already put me on some sort of watch list, so I guess that's it.
But how's this for disguise, eh?
Hey, look, now I'm a baby, and I'm asking you to like, comment, and subscribe so that we'll have enough money to buy food for the winter.